In sports, as in politics, damage control was the name of the Ottawa game in 1993. The Senators finished at the bottom of the NHL pile, so took Alexandre Daigle first overall. But allegations of tanking to get him surfaced after the surprising resignation of team chairman Bruce Firestone. An NHL investigation cleared the Sens of any wrongdoing, and Daigle was theirs to keep. But the future wasn't secure until late December, when financing for the Palladium finally fell into place. By then, Bruce Firestone was an afterthought. Mel Bridgman fired, and Rod Brydon, the man in total control of the team's fortunes. Want controversy? Look no further than Dexter Manley. He returned to the Riders talking a big game, but way too out of shape to play one. Manley was the ringleader in a circus of a season, one full of backbiting, rebellion, and bad football. Players said and did what they wanted, while the coaches weren't allowed to. It was chaos, on and off the field. When the circus tent folded on another season, the Riders had fired the GM, the head coach, and even lost their fan club. Ottawa fans turned away from the Riders, yet turned out in droves to see the Lynx. Record numbers in a brand new stadium became familiar with the Expos of the future, but not even a new league attendance mark or making the playoffs was enough to keep the controversies away. GM Tom Maloney was fired for letting personal problems keep him from earning his paycheck. Then the Expos decided manager Mike Quade was no longer their type of manager and fired him as well. Even the Labatt Brier dealt with a dilemma or two. No one could agree on the prescribed playoff format, and TV lights played tricks with the ice. But everyone agreed that Russ Howard was king. He outfoxed Rick Folk to win the Brier, and then won the world title too. November brought Skate Canada and reigning world champion Kurt Browning. He played it again, and he won it again, setting up a showdown with Elvis Stoico at the upcoming Winter Olympics.
Joining me now from Ottawa is Rob Sinclair. Rob, the ups and downs of the Senators seem to mirror the controversy that raged in the Capitol all season long. Your head must have been spinning trying to keep up with all the events going on this year.
Hey, I felt like Linda Blair trying to keep up with all of it. But when you get down to it, it was the Ottawa Senators who, more than any other team, tried to learn what it was like to be big league, and they had to do it in many different ways. First off, they hired Mel Bridgman as a first-year GM who had no GM experience. He cost them so much that they had to get rid of him before things got worse. Then you look at Governor Bruce Firestone. When he made those intemperate comments at the draft that started the Senators scandal, what he did was he damaged not only the reputation of the hockey team, but his own reputation, and he's still trying to recover from that. Talk about Randy Sexton. Well, he managed to put the house back in order, but when he signed Alexandre Daigle to that multi-million-dollar 5-year deal, the other NHL GMs went absolutely ballistic, because what it did was it drove the price of their own NHL prospects right through the roof, and as a result, the Ottawa Senators developed this reputation of making up for their mistakes the entire season long.
Talk about mistakes. How about the Rough Riders? If you had problems following the Senators, what was it like concentrating on the Lonnie and Dexter show all year?
Well, when you think about it, the Gleibermans, for guys who build for a living, they did a great job of dismantling this football team. Bernie and Lonnie are without a doubt the Barnum and Bailey of the CFL, and let's face it, you pitch the circus tents, and the next step, of course, is to send in the clowns. And I think in many ways that's what they did. They brought in that ringleader, John Ritchie, to handle business operations. And let's face it, he has no football experience at all. He was hired from alpine skiing. And then, of course, you bring in Dexter, and when you saw what he didn't even want to play. He was falling asleep at team meetings. So he proved to be obviously more a hindrance than a help. And when Bernie started running the show, you just knew it was a matter of time before Ron Smeltzer lost all respect, all control of his football team, and eventually his job.
Even the AAA Lynx had their share of controversy after a winning season, great attendance. They fired their field manager, Mike Quade. Did you ever find out why?
Well, Dan Duquette, who obviously handles the Lynx operations from the baseball side, he did intimate that the problem he had with Mike Quade was that Mike Quade didn't prepare the prospects for the major league level. You see, AAA is a finishing school for major league prospects. It's there to get them to the next level, and he thought Quade failed in that regard. Now, my own feeling is that because Mike Quade was hired by Dave Dombrowski, and he was a manager in the same mold as, say, a Tom Reynolds, somewhat of an abrasive, enthusiastic, kind of fiery manager, he isn't Dan Duquette's kind of guy. He didn't see eye to eye. Dan Duquette likes a Felipe Alou, a more gentler player-style manager, and that's who he's got in Jim Tracy, who will now handle the Lynx. And if Dan Duquette is going to put his stamp on the Expos, and indirectly the Lynx, Mike Quade had to go.
Okay, Rob, thanks very much. All the best to you in 1994.
Hey, thanks very much. And before I go, I just want to say thanks to cameraman Mark Dunley for doing an absolutely fantastic job bringing us all the video out of Ottawa this year. And on behalf of Mark and myself, I want to wish everyone else, and you too, Jim, a very happy New Year, and hoping 1994 is as much fun as 1993 was for us to cover.